Thank you all for tuning into Big Mama Story Time. Story Time! Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment to my page. Here we go. Hi guys, thank you all for tuning into Big Mama Story Time on today. Today I will be reading to you my side of the story, Disney Cinderella. This is the part of the mom of Cinderella, which is Lady Tremaine. This is her part of the story, so I just wanted to read this. I saw the book at the store, and I was like, oh, let me grab this. So I grabbed it, but let's all get up into this. I've been talking long enough, y'all. Okay, my side of the story by Lady Tremaine, as told to Daphne Skinner, illustrated by John Kurtz. All right, let's get into this, peoples. I have always tried to do right by my daughters, Anastasia and Drizella are the sweetest, loveliest girls in the kingdom, and neither one of them would hurt a fly. So I feel I must tell the world about our relationship with their stepsister Cindy. Too many people believe that we mistreated Cindy and we were cruel to her. They've even accused us of making her a servant in our own house. They are mistaken. First, Anastasia and Drizella have always been delicate creatures, sensitive little things whose feelings bruised easily. When I married Cindy's father, they were as timid as mice. Cindy, on the other hand, was a rather odd, unruly little girl, always skipping off to the barnyard and talking to the animals. But she seemed good-natured, and I hope she might befriend my darlings and help them to overcome their shyness. I didn't know it then, but that was about as likely as a fox playing patty cake with a pair of young rabbits. I remember the day I first began to suspect that Cindy wasn't quite as sweet as she pretended to be. It was some time ago, during Signor Capizio's annual visit. He was fitting the girls for shoes, as he did every year. He measured Anastasia and Drizella first. "Madonna," he exclaimed, "I can't believe it. You are both size 10. Last year you were size 7. My daughters were 11 and 12, and they had just gone through a dramatic growth spurt. They were very self-conscious about it, poor darlings. Anastasia had taken to dropping things and bumping into the furniture. Drizella bit her nails constantly. "Mama," croaked Anastasia, "is that bad? Are my feet too big?" quavered Drizella. "Of course not," I assured her. "Big feet are a sign of intelligence, aren't they, Signor?" But Signor Capizio didn't respond. He was busy measuring Cindy's feet. "Size 4, he gushed. "Not a millimeter more than last year. They are still come for Fiorelli, like little flowers." Cindy protested as if his flattery embarrassed her. But I could sense her malicious glee, and so could my girls. It's always sides to 2 stories, y'all. This is hers. I have strong maternal instincts, and when they warned me about Cindy, I listened. My girls had been hurt. I could see it in their downcast eyes, hear it in their quavering voices, and sense it in the way they slouched around in their bathrobes. I had to act quickly before Cindy launched another sneak attack on their wobbly self-esteem. So the day after Signor Capizio's visit, I told my daughters that from then on, they would be spending less time with their stepsister. You'll be too busy with your important new responsibilities, I explained. From now on, you, Anastasia, will be in charge of coming to music lessons on time. You will also pick flowers for the luncheon table and make sure your dirty clothing is in the laundry basket where it belongs. And you, Drizella, will be in charge of wearing clean gloves to your dancing lessons. You will also decide which clothing has to be mended and ring the dinner bell every evening. My girls looked at me with dismay. It sounded like a lot of work. It's true, but I knew they were up to the challenge. There was a long silence while they thought this over. Then they asked, Mama, what about Cindy? Does she have any responsibilities too? Yes, indeed, I replied. Cindy will do the washing and the ironing, I said. She will sweep and scrub and dust. She'll also serve us breakfast, do the mending, and feed the animals. That's not fair. That sounds fair, said Anastasia. Drizella nodded. Tears filled my eyes. What good, brave girls I had. Oh, I guess. Years went by. Though Cindy had more work than ever, I saw to that. She was never too busy to connive against my girls. For example, she knew that Anastasia was terrified of mice, so she cunningly hid a huge rodent under my poor daughter's teacup one morning. I have never heard such screams. They terrified me and nearly sent Drizella into hysterics of her own. Both girls were so shattered that I had to summon Monsieur Sedative, the nerve specialist from France, and her cerebrum, the analyst from Austria. Even with the help of these renowned physicians, my darlings did not recover for days. When they were finally well again, I gave them a music lesson. To my relief, Anastasia played beautifully without once dropping her flute. Drizella sang like an angel, hitting at least every other note perfectly. Then Cindy came into the music room carrying a royal gram. The king was giving a ball in honor of the prince, and we were all invited. I was overjoyed, and so were my girls, until Cindy spoke up. The royal gram says that all the eligible girls in the kingdom are invited, she said, fluffing her blonde hair, batting her long eyelashes, and doing a pirouette on those tiny little feet. I'm eligible. That means I'm invited too. Anastasia's flute clattered to the floor. Drizella's hands flew to her mouth, and she began chewing all 10 fingernails at once. My maternal instincts went on red alert, but what could I do? I had to be fair. So I told the girls that as long as they finished their assigned task and dressed themselves suitably, they could all go, even Cinderella. Without another word, Anastasia hurried away to pick flowers and sort the laundry, and Drizella began deciding which clothes needed mending. I was proud of them. Happily, they soon finished these highly demanding tasks and spent the rest of the day preparing for the ball. Cindy, on the other hand, took forever to accomplish her few simple chores. She spent hours cleaning the andirons and even longer on the soup tureen. And by 8 o'clock, she hadn't finished polishing the fish knives. Needless to say, she was still wearing her apron and her kerchief. We were ready by then, of course, and it was rude to keep the coach waiting. We bid Cindy farewell. I should have known she would make a last-ditch effort to delay us, and she did. Just as we were walking out of the door, she scrambled downstairs wearing a hideous, ill-fitting frock that looked as if it had been sewn by rodents. "Is there room for me in the coach?" she cried. People have accused us of being unkind to Cindy, but I feel my daughters and I did her a great favor at that moment. We We told her ever so gently that her dress was unsuitable and that she should stay at home. It was our attempt to spare her lifetime of embarrassment. Shockingly, she was not the least bit grateful. I would like to say that my girls met the prince and charmed him off his feet. Off his feet. Excuse me. But alas, that is not what happened. They met him, yes, and he was very polite. But when they tried to draw him out, he barely responded. His attention was clearly elsewhere. After a few distracted pleasantries, he excused himself and hurried away. My girls were deeply disappointed. "Mama," whimpered Drizella, "he hardly even talked to us. And he never asked us to dance," complained Anastasia. "He hasn't asked anyone to dance," I pointed out. And it was true. The orchestra was playing and the ballroom was full of beautiful dressed young ladies, but they were waltzing with one another. The prince was nowhere to be seen. I must get to the bottom of this, I thought, so I hurried to the powder room, which was crowded with frustrated mothers. Not surprisingly, the main topic of the conversation was the prince's odd behavior. Then another mother entered with the news that the prince was in the garden waltzing with a young woman. "Who is she?" everyone asked in the chorus. "I have no idea," replied the irate mother. "She must be a foreigner. Perhaps she's American." What followed was disgraceful. Before I could make my way to the garden, I was pushed aside. No, trampled by a violent stampede of ruthless matrons. So I did not get a look at the mystery woman. I merely glimpsed her through the surging crowd. There was something strangely familiar about her, I thought. Nevertheless, I had other things on my mind. The ball had been a big disappointment to my girls. Would they take it in stride or start wandering around in their bathrobes again? I couldn't say. Signor Capiccio came bright and early the next morning to deliver my daughter's shoes and to gossip about the ball. I heard second Principe fell in love last night, he said with the petite golden-haired beauty. "The one who was waltzing with him in the garden?" I thought. "It's incredible," he went on, "but this young lady, she wore slippers made of glass. In all my years as a shoemaker, I have never heard of such a thing. Ostrich leather? Yes. Shark skin? Yes. But glass? No." He shook his head in amazement. "I heard also," he continued, "that she fled the palace at midnight, leaving one of her slippers behind. Icola du Principe wants to find her and marry her." "That should be easy enough," I said. "He must have her address." "No. He has only the glass slipper," replied Signor Capizio. "He says that the woman who fits it will be his bride. Even now the Grand Duke is searching the kingdom. I passed him. He is coming this way." "Are you saying that the prince will marry any woman who can get her foot into the glass slipper?" I asked, and he nodded. Then my girls still have a chance, I thought. Surely one of them can fit her foot into it. "Let me show you out, Signor," I said, leading him into the foyer. "One other thing," he said as I opened the door. "The slipper of glass. It is said to be very, very small." He bowed. "Arrivederci, Signora." In my desperate haste to get my girls out of bed, I scarcely noticed Cindy. If she hadn't dropped the breakfast tray, I probably wouldn't have seen her at all. But she did drop them, just as I was telling Drizella about the prince's search for the mystery girl, and begging her to wash her feet before the Grand Duke arrived. The crash startled me, but what startled me even more was Cindy's response when I asked her to clean up the mess. She ignored me. Then she pirouetted out the door, humming a waltz. It was the very same waltz that had been playing at the ball. At that exact moment, my suspicions about my stepdaughter changed for the worse. Obviously, Cinderella had gone to the ball, but how? I racked my brain. It finally came to me. I do not like to use the words black magic, but in this instance, I simply must. Black magic. Cindy had used dark magical powers to transform herself into a lady, go to the ball, and put a spell on the prince. When I thought of what she was capable of doing next, my blood ran cold. Maybe it was already cold. Have you ever thought about that? I'm just saying, y'all. But this is her side. I have many regrets about that day. I shouldn't have locked Cindy in her room. I should have packed her straight off to her cerebrum's home for the mentally troubled. A few years of rest behind those tall, barred windows might have done her some good and saved my daughters the humiliation that followed. As it was, Cindy quickly used her magic powers to free herself. She flounced downstairs before the Duke could leave. Neither Anastasia nor Drizella had been able to fit into the glass slipper, though they had tried their little hearts out, and he was about to go. The events of the next few moments are a blur. I remember Cindy fluttering her eyes at the Duke and extending her foot. I remember Anastasia's throaty cry of rage. I remember that Drizella began to hyperventilate. I may have tried to restrain them with my walking stick. I'm not sure. I do know that in the confusion, the glass slipper flew into the air before it reached Cindy's feet, hit the floor, and broke into 1,000 tiny pieces. My girls and I froze. The Grand Duke wept. Cinderella smiled. Then, as if by magic, she produced another glass slipper. Of course it fit her perfectly. That's what black magic is all about. Right. Okay. Yesterday, as we were having tea, Anastasia started complaining. She does this often. Cindy married the prince, she moaned with her mouth full of crumpet, and we didn't. Before I could remind her not to talk with her mouth full, Drizella chimed in. It isn't fair, she whined. Girls, I told them, count your blessings. We're all healthy. We're all together. There are no more mice in the house, and we even have a new servant. I rang the bell for Rumpelstiltskin, who scuttled in with a platter of tea cakes. As soon as he had hurried away, Anastasia muttered, There's something weird about him. I know what you mean, said Drizella. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder. He's fast and efficient and he keeps to himself, I said. We're lucky to have him. Besides, I thought he'll never cast a spell on us. Like someone I could mention. So what if I have to pay him? At least I don't have to worry anymore. And that's a real blessing. All right, guys. That is the end of her side of Lady Tremaine, the mom of Cinderella. Well, stepmom, I could say. All right, guys, I hope you like this book. I actually liked it. It's interesting to hear someone else's side, even though we think it's terrible. It's good to hear someone else's side, others' opinions. All right, guys, thank you all for tuning in to Big Mama Story Time. I thank you all for y'all support. All right, bye, guys.